Hello cookies, it's Siri, I'm back, and this title right here is not a clickbait. Today I'm going to tell you about something that has really profoundly made me who I am, I guess, and it is an event or a bad situation that has affected me so much that I think about it almost every day, and I think about it very, very often. Like I said, every day, or if not every day, then maybe every 2 days or many times a week. The people that I've dated seriously, like John or my ex, they kind of know what happened, like the summary of that evening, of that night, but they don't really know, so no one actually really knows the whole thing. And I've always felt like I wanted to have my story out there because it is tragic, it is dramatic, but at the same time it is my story and I want it to be told. I don't want it to be an insignificant thing because it has impacted me so much, and it is something that still makes me wake up with terrible nightmares. Like, people that have dated me know that I have really bad nightmares, and it is one of the reasons. And I also feel like I want you cookies to know me, as in me, because I try to always be positive, to be happy, and I want you cookies to be happy, seeing my channel, seeing colors, seeing things, and I want to be myself here. But the Happy Eerie has also a really dark past, a really sad past, a really tragic past that I want you to see and I want you to discover as well. Okay, so now let's start the story because, it's gonna take a long time and I don't want to beat around the bush. So it happened when I was about 14. Yes, I was 14 years old. It was a Sunday, and we went to this family gathering with my family. So the thing is, I am one of those nerds. I've always been a nerd since I was little, and I was a top student at school, and I was a top student because I was studying really, really hard, and I always put my studies first before anything else. And I had an exam the Monday after that Sunday, so I really wanted to study, but my father said that we had to go to a family gathering, and I tried to negotiate and I tried to say that, I really want to study because tomorrow, I remember, I think it was history, and I had so much to learn and study, but my father was like, no, you follow us to the family gathering, there's no discussion. And with my parents, there was never any way to actually argue. What they say is basically what you do as a child. So I brought along my notebooks to that family gathering, and I remember I asked one of my uncles there if I could borrow one of the rooms and study there by myself. So there were times I was with the family and there were times I was by myself studying because I really, really, really did not want to mess up the exam. And one thing as well is that I usually wake up very early because school in Madagascar starts really, really early. I think it was like 7 or like 15 to 7, and I really wanted all the sleep possible. And I remember the whole afternoon and evening asking my father if we could leave, and my mom was asking him as well, but he didn't want to because he just wanted to enjoy the party, I guess. So by the time we left, it was really late. I think we arrived home at 9 or 10 p.m. It was very, very late. And at that time, for me, it was late because I used to go to bed at around 7 p.m. So it was late, and my dad was actually drunk already in the afternoon, and he got very drunk in the evening even more. And I remember that when we were heading home, actually was driving really, really fast. So there was me in the back and there were my 2 brothers and then my mom on the passenger seat, and my mom was always telling him to go slower, and he was just like, like get lost and telling her like whatever, like, no, I'm driving the way I want to. And there was a dog sleeping because there's lots of stray dogs in Mada. There was a dog sleeping on the sidewalk, on the sidewalk, not on the main road where cars are. And I remember that my dad just suddenly like did this with the wheel so that he drove over the dog. It was a white dog. I remembered it because I was very shocked. And then my brother who was next to me was like, did did that just like drive intentionally over that dog that was sleeping? And I was like, yes. And like, you know, it's like I wasn't that shocked really, because I was kind of used to my father being drunk after like family gatherings. So when we finally arrived home, like I said, it was 9 or 10 p.m. And I was mad because I was really tired, and of course I couldn't properly, you know, like study. So when I was in the kitchen, because when we come in the house, you come straight away in the kitchen, my dad was like heading to his room, and I said something along the lines of like, toi alors je ne t'aime pas, which means basically like, you, come on, I don't like you, or I don't love you, but in that sense I meant it as in like, I don't like you. And I said that just because, I don't know why I said it, but I was kind of tired, and I didn't mean it in like an aggressive way, and I really was just tired, like just kind of like, come on, you could have done something else, or like, you could have done this differently so that I could have studied, or, you know, just saying it like, like not really meaning it in an aggressive way. But then like he straight away turned around and he said, what did you say? What? Repeat that. And then I knew what would happen, and it happened. So I got lots of slaps across the face, like left, right, lots of slaps. Like he was just slapping me so much. I was still standing in the kitchen, and then my mom was coming after me, and then she was like, she stood there, so she went in front of me, and then she told him, she was like, oh, mifun. So mifun in Malagasy, it's like sorry, but it's a sorry that means kind of like, I beg you, sorry. So she was like, oh, sorry, she didn't mean that, please stop. And he was just getting angrier, and he just wanted to like slap me and push my mom out of the way. And then my mom was like, stay behind me to me, because he was starting to get really violent and started to like, you know, like hit my mom as well, and he wanted to hit me. So my mom pushed me back so that, you know, she could protect me when he was like still assaulting both of us. And we ended up in my brother's bedroom. So when we ended up in my brother's bedroom, my dad pushed my mom. So like, because she was pushed like that, she also pushed me, of course unintentionally, and I ended up on my brother's bed. And then that was the time my dad took off his belt. So, you know, he had like this huge chunky belt, and he started to hit me with the belt. So he used the belt to just basically like whip me like this, and my mom was trying her best to protect me with her body while I was laying on the bed like this. She tried to like lay on top of me like this to protect me from my dad, but he was still hitting me a lot with the belt. And since it was the metal part of the belt, I actually still have some scars. They're tiny now on my legs, but I used to have big scars on my legs from that night of him just basically hitting there. My brothers came and they started to peek at their door, because it was their bedroom's door, and they saw what was happening. And my mom told me to go, and she was like, go and hide your brothers in our bedroom, meaning my dad and her's bedroom, because my dad, since my mom was trying to protect me, started to get mad at her and insulting her and calling her names. So then now his crazy anger was not focused on me anymore, but on my mom. So I managed to sneak under my mom while she was still on the bed, and she then stood up. So she was like, you know, like talking to my dad, trying to reason with him, trying to talk him out of that rage, and while he was still trying to hit her. And I took my brothers, so I took them by the hands, and I was like, come on, let's go in my parents' room. So we went in their room, and I closed the door and started to talk to them. I was like, it's okay, don't worry, they're just fighting as usual. And at that time, like I said, I was 14, so my brother that is right under me was 9.5, and the other one was 5.5. So they were still arguing, my parents outside, and then I saw that it started to get worse, because I opened the door slightly and I peeked outside. And now my parents were in the hallway / the living room. They were heading towards the living room, still arguing. And my dad was just beating my mom up with his fist and just hitting. So I turned towards my brothers and I said, we have to help our mom. She's getting beaten up really bad by our dad. So it's time to be courageous now and do something about this. We can't just let this happen. We have to help her. And we tried to see what was in the room basically to fight. And I remember, I think I saw a broom for some weird reason. There was a broom, I think. And then my brothers, they both took some pillows. It sounds super ridiculous right now, but they took some pillows. And then I was like, are you ready? And they were both shaking. They were both really scared. But they were like, yes, yes. And I was like, come on, be strong. We have to be strong here. We can't just let him beat up our mom like that. So we went out and then we started to kind of attack my dad, but he used to do martial arts. So I remember that he was raising his leg to kind of kick me in the face, but I backed up, and then my brothers tried to hit him as well, but he just pushed them like this, and they were just tiny boys, so there was nothing much they could do. At this point, the security guard that we have tried to talk to my father. He came in the house and he was trying to talk to him. He was saying, Monsieur, Monsieur. Monsieur is Mister, I guess, and he was trying to push him outside and calm him down. And he was scared, of course, because my dad was in a rage and screaming and hitting everybody. And the security guard didn't know what to do because his salary and the food that he's eating and the money that he earns is provided by my father. So he didn't want to get fired if my dad got mad at him, but at the same time he saw that my dad was beating up his family, so he couldn't just let him do it. So he tried to tell my dad to go outside and calm down and just breathe, and they went outside. While they were outside, my mom told us to go in our rooms. So she said, go in your rooms and then lock the door. So my brothers, I don't know what they were doing, but I know they went in their room, and then I went in my room and I locked the door. And that was actually a big mistake, because then we heard the car. So my dad started one of the cars. There were 2 cars outside, and he started the car. And our house is a flat house, so there's no story. It's just a flat villa that is, just no story. It's just ground floor. And he drove the car around so that he was right where my room was. So he was trying to basically break the wall of my room from the outside using the car. So he was driving the car against the wall like boom, boom. And that's when my key decided to get stuck in the keyhole of the door, so I couldn't go out. And I was telling my mom, I was like, he's trying to kill me, he's trying to drive the car in my room and I can't go out. And my mom was starting to panic and she was banging on the door, and I was like, I was trying to fiddle, or I don't know what the word is, with the key. And then I finally managed to come out. And then my mom was like, hey, what's happening in your ears? And actually I had blood coming from my ears. And I think it's because of the slaps that I received earlier, like all the slaps, and my dad was really violent. So that's why I had some blood coming from my ears. And my dad was still trying to, hit the wall and break the wall of my room. It didn't work, so he went back in the house, and then when he went back in the house, he started to beat up my mom again, and it was getting really, really bad. Like he was getting even more aggressive, and I was genuinely scared. So I ran outside the house and I ran outside our property, and I ran towards the neighbor's house, and all the way through, and I was running, I was screaming, please, please help, my dad is killing my mom, please help us, please someone call someone, please someone help. And I could see that the neighbors' lights were on behind their windows, but no one came out. And there's an explanation to that as well. It's because most of our neighbors were also hired by my parents at their office as cleaning people, so they didn't dare do anything. And at some point I just banged on the neighbor's door, and when she opened a little bit, I pushed her and I went in and I was just like, please, please help me. My dad is killing my mom, please someone help us at home. And they were like, no, get out now, you're gonna bring us some problems, get out, we are not here for that, we don't want to get involved in that. And you know, I was like, please, and they were just like, no, they were trying to push me out of the door. But I didn't want to go out. I was scared and I wanted them to come and help. So I ended up going further in the house, in the living room. And in the living room, they have a window that is like very low window and really big that opens towards the main road, or like the tiny road, because we lived in the countryside. And then suddenly my dad appeared there, and I was really freaked out. He started to yell at me and he was like, I'm coming inside there and I'm going to kill you. I'm going to freaking kill you. You're going to see there's nothing left of you. And I was crying a lot. Of course, the whole time I was crying and I was begging him. I was like, please stop, don't hurt me anymore, don't do this anymore. And he was like, okay, on your knees. And I was like, you know, he was still outside the window, but the window was big open. I don't know why, but it was wide open. So he could have just come in really easily by just jumping a little bit through the window to the living room. So I was in the living room and he was like, on your knees, I want you on the ground. So I was on the ground and he was like, now I want your head on the floor, you know, as in like a praying position. So my head was on the floor and I was on the floor as well. And then he was like, repeat after me. And I was just like, okay. And he was like, I'm a piece of shit. And then I was crying at the same time and I was saying and trembling, I'm a piece of shit. And he said, I'm nothing without my father. And I repeated, I'm nothing without my father. I'm gonna eat shit if my father tells me to eat shit. And I was like, I'm going to eat shit if my father tells me to eat shit. So I was just there repeating those things, and then I was still trembling and crying, and then he disappeared from the window. He went back home, I guess. At that time I was just surprised. And then my neighbor came and she was like, please leave, we want nothing in this drama, please leave. So I don't know what really I was thinking about, but I left and went back home. When I went back home, I saw that the situation was still bad because my dad and mom were still fighting, but my brothers were very courageous, so they were actually there in the fight trying to protect my mom. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So at that time, I was like, this is a really bad situation. I don't know what to do right now, but I can't let my brothers there because my dad wasn't really focused on them yet, but I knew that he would lose it because he lost it completely. So I took my brothers and I was like, we have to go, like, put on some shoes really quick and put on some light jackets if you can, but we have to go. We didn't manage to grab anything much really. They just put on shoes and I had some light clothes as well and a tiny very thin jacket like this. And I grabbed their hands and I was like, now let's run and let's get out of here. So basically, while my dad's attention was focused on my mom, I took my brothers and I was like, come on, let's run now. So we just left the house, left the property, went on the small road. Like I said, it's countryside, so on the countryside road, and I was holding them, both of them like this, like behind me, and I was like, come on, run faster, we have to escape, he's going to try to kill us. And then at some point when we were going up the hill, because we live kind of like down a hill, so we were going up the hill towards the main road, I saw that there were some car lights behind. I heard a car and I saw that there were car lights and I was like, it's my dad, is coming for us. And I was just thinking, I'm not going to let you hurt my brothers. That is never going to freaking happen. I'm not going to let you hurt them. So I was just like, where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go? So on the left, there was this countryside church. And then actually along the church, you have some pine trees there. And then under the pine trees, you had some mud. And there, people were basically defecating, as in pooping and peeing there. And there was some mud and it was dirt. And people were also throwing their trash like people in the neighborhood. But since there was the road that was like straight like this or that was the only option I had. So I told my brothers, come on, let's go there. So we went there and we were like there in the mud under the pine trees. So I asked my brothers to bury themselves as much as they could in the mud and the feces and the pee, and I was there with them as well, so we buried ourselves there, and I was like, you know, just like soldiers burying themselves in mud so that they're almost invisible, so we were like burying ourselves as quick as we could, and I was like, stay still, stay calm, and I was just holding them like this. And when the car lights passed, so like basically we were here on the side here, and the car passed like this, I like made them like squat down in the mud even more, so we had like mud until here. I know I sound like I'm laughing right now, but it's just like I've thought about that night so many times, and the things that could have been in that mud, and like I didn't feel disgusted or gross at that time when that happened, because I was just like, it's either that or we're going to die, it's going to kill us, so there's no other way. So we went in the mud, and then the car just passed us. When I was sure, or as sure as I could be in that situation, that the car was long gone, we went out of there, so we were like super dirty with mud and everything. And I told them, let's continue walking. So we continued walking up the hill, and then there was the main road, and we crossed the main road. And across the main road, there was another hill, and it was actually a hill that was leading to a mountain. I remember both of my brothers were very courageous. None of them was crying. They were both really quiet, and we just were running as fast as we could. And every time I heard some cars from the main road, I was always scared that it would be my father, but it wasn't him. So we ended up climbing up the mountain. And another thing is that that mountain is actually dangerous, because people that live in the area know that that's where drug dealers and junkies get high and share drugs and deal drugs. But I really had no option. In my head, I thought, this is the last place where my father is going to look for us, because if we walk along the main road, he can always find us. And of course, there are many other places now, thinking back at it, that could have brought us, but I was in shock, I was scared, I just wanted to protect my brothers and protect myself, and I just thought, okay, let's go up the mountain. So we were climbing up the mountain, and the mountain has some trees as well. It's kind of like a forest mountain. I found us a place in the middle of some bushes where I decided that we would sleep. So basically I was against the bushes like this, and asked both of my brothers to be on either side of my shoulders. So I was holding both of them like this, and I was kind of like, you know, patting them and telling them it's going to be okay. And they were both really cold, so I took my jacket and I put it over the three of us. And yeah, so that's basically how we spent the night. And I was telling them the whole night that it's going to be okay, that they should sleep and get some energy, that I would never let anyone hurt them. And I was really scared, and I was freezing, and I just, you know, I was kind of in shock as well, but at the same time I knew that I had to be strong for the three of us, because they were little, they didn't know what was happening, and it was unfair that something like that would happen to them. So I was just holding them and asking them to sleep and just patting them. I couldn't sleep at all, because I had to, you know, keep watch in case someone came for us. When the morning came, I woke them both, and we decided to continue walking. So basically we walked through the mountain. So the mountain top is kind of like this, and then on the top of the mountain you have a small trail, like a really tiny trail. And I was like, okay, I have no idea where we're going, but we have to just keep on walking, and it's gonna be alright, I will figure something out. So we continued walking, and in the end the trail led us to the main road. Actually, it led us back to the main road, because it was straight, but then at some point it started going down, and since I had no idea where we were, I just decided to follow it. So when we arrived on the main road, I decided we would walk along the main road, because I thought, okay, here now it's daytime, and I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. I just decided to walk us back on the main road. And then when we were walking, at some point I heard a car coming from behind and going doo-doo, and I saw the car, and it was the red car. There was two different cars, and it was the red car as well that was passing by the church when we were in the mud. So my heart sank, and I was like, No, no, no. But then when the car passed by, it was my mom. So she arrived actually, and when she saw us, she stopped the car and then she came towards us and she hugged all of us. And when we were in the car, she was explaining to me that actually it was her in the red car when we were hiding next to the church. It was her because she was trying to find us. So she was basically just trying to find us. It wasn't my father in the car trying to kill us. It was my mom trying to look for us, but at the time I couldn't see who the driver was. And you know, since my dad used the same red car to try to break the wall and kill me while I was in my room, you know, logic told me that it was him and he was coming after us. So my mom was like, no, but it's fine, you know, now I found the three of you and you're all okay, so let's just go to the hotel and clean you, and then just, you know, spend the day there to kind of like calm down after the events. The rest of the story is just basically that my father apologized and my mom accepted it, and we went back to the house and to live with him, and everything was forgotten. But yeah, for me it's like it's not the only situation like that that happened to me that was that bad and that was, you know, linked to how it was at home. I know that I look like I'm almost, you know, laughing or smiling or like I don't really care, but this whole event is something that I've always, you know, had on and on and on and on and on in my head. I'm so used to everything. I know every single detail. I know how it felt when I was in the mud with my brothers. I know how it felt when I was awake the whole night and I was freezing and I was trying to keep them warm. I know everything. It's something that is so deep in me that when I talk about it, it's like I feel sad, but at the same time, I can also talk about it in a way that I'm just talking about it, and I really just wanted to tell my story. I've always wondered since I was a child why I was born into that family, because that night is one of those really strong events, but there are also many other things that happen that I will also talk about here on my channel. Really bad things, including deaths and times when I had bruises on my face from the slaps and from the hits and from being beaten up, and the insults, the name calling. I was called many things as well, including a whore that opens her legs for anybody and everybody, and even though I didn't do that. So yeah, I don't know how to end this video. So until next time, I will see you cookies at the next video. Bye bye!